Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the El Calvario podcast. Here one more week with Pastor Suarez. Pastor, how you doing?
I'm always fantastic.
I think this is the most we've had you on.
I think so.
Like without having a special guest or someone else. I think this whole year it's been you.
For the most part, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So thank you again.
Maybe we missed a week or two, but yeah, I've been on here pretty much the whole year.
Yeah. So we'll see. I guess during the summer, that's when things started to get a little more busy.
You know what? I was about to say that's not true, but it is. July is going to be a black hole.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of events coming up. I know we're getting ready for, first off, we're getting ready for a rally on Friday.
Yep.
Section 12 rally. Then we have Mother's Day. Then we have Explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, just a whole bunch of other events.
Yeah. It's going to be, June shouldn't be that bad, but July picks up and
Yeah.
There's a lot in July.
So look forward to that, everyone that's watching and listening. And we've been the last few weeks now just talking about, biblical figures, right? We're now, I don't know how many weeks we are in talking about Moses.
We're at least 5 weeks at the very least.
We've done a very deep dive on Moses. And this week we decided to do a little bit of like a not break, but like a spin-off, I guess you can say, right?
Sidetrack.
A little sidetrack. We'll get back to the actual deep dive.
The Bible, actually.
Yeah. Because
we are so not in the Bible this week.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because last week we had discussed finally watching the movie Exodus, Gods and Kings.
Yep.
Which, if you didn't know, was a movie that came out more than 10 years ago. I didn't even know it came out.
Me either.
And
even
it's just
when I said it, I think I said it on here that it came out like in 18 or 19.
Yeah. So it came out a while ago now, and we had never seen it.
Yeah.
And it's about Moses and the whole exodus of the Israelites. So we were like, all right, let's give this a watch, see how it is, right? Because again, we had never seen it, and it was an actual like a big blockbuster film with a big budget, big actors, and the director as well. So we finally saw it, and so today we're just gonna talk about the movie.
Yeah.
So if you're not interested in movies, feel free to stick around. Maybe you'll get something out of this.
Yeah.
Because I think it's always important to recognize that it's good to watch these like interpretations of stories from the Bible. But you also have to be careful that some of them aren't really accurate.
Yeah.
Some of them more so than others.
There's I would give the guy a plug if I could think of the name of his channel. There's a channel on YouTube. It's gonna drive me nuts. I can't think of his name, but he discusses the Narnia books, and he always brings up the fact that the books were written however many decades before the modern movies were made. And he says, there's a lot of people that think the movies were the story, but the books were the story. And with biblical movies or shows or whatever, I don't think they're all sinful. There's a few I would never watch, like the Noah movie, just because they didn't even try to go to the Bible for that one. But outside of that, like, you can watch them, they're fine, but always remember that's just a modern interpretation of what the truth actually is. And you got to go to the truth.
Yeah, and I think like the movies or TV shows or any sort of, any sort of those things, it just helps visualize really more than anything, right? Because obviously we don't have any pictures.
Well, this one doesn't, but other ones do.
Yeah, it just gives you like maybe an idea of what it would have been like, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think that's really like something you can kind of gain from watching those. Is just like, oh, maybe more or less is how it would have been. But this movie in particular, it's a little bit different. They're definitely a few more liberties taken.
Oh, yeah. They're funny, though.
Yeah, that's why. It's interesting to see.
So maybe that little disclaimer before we give a synopsis of the movie. I watch certain things very ironically, okay? And I can crack up, like West Side Story in particular, man. I'm telling you, that movie cracks me up, and I could watch it again and again because the ballet fighting just never gets old to me. So while other people might watch this movie and get very upset, it's funny to me. There's 2 scenes that do make me mad. Outside of that, the rest of it's very funny.
Yeah. So the movie was, I think, like 2.5 hours.
It's long. They take their sweet time.
Yeah, and it's again, it's called Exodus, Gods and Kings, right? So a quick little overview. Looking at their Wikipedia page, it's set in 1300 BC, right? We have Moses, who's a general and accepted member of the Egyptian family, prepares to attack an encamped Hittite army with Prince Ramses at Kadesh. So that's kind of how the movie starts, right?
Yeah.
Like they're doing some sort of planning to attack here. And then we see, I'm just kind of like skipping through here. They end up, we see that a priestess gives like some sort of prophecy saying that someone's going to, what was it? Like someone's going to be, the leader's going to be saved.
It's a prophesied birth. Yeah. The Savior's going to be born is what the prophecy was, basically.
Yeah. And so then the next scene is like they start fighting, right? They go do that fight. We see Moses saves Ramses' life. Apparently left them both troubled, according to this synopsis here. Afterward, we see Moses volunteers to go to the city of Pithom, right? Mm-hmm. In place of his cousin to meet with the viceroy who oversees the Hebrew slaves. Afterward, he encounters Joshua, who's being lashed, right?
Yeah. What was it? I don't know. No. Whatever.
Anyway, he meets with the elders of the Hebrews to see if the slaves are planning any sort of sedition as claimed by the viceroy. Mm-hmm. After those meetings, Moses receives a message to meet with the elders afterward in private. Afterward, that's when he kind of finds out his true lineage, right? Mm-hmm. That he is the child of Hebrew parents who were sent by Sister Miriam to be raised by Pharaoh's daughter. So that's when he finds about that.
But like he hears it, but doesn't necessarily believe it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not convinced.
Uh-huh.
So he leaves there and he leaves angry. And this part doesn't really make sense. He just kills 2 guards.
Yep.
Because he was angry.
Mm-hmm.
And then he leaves. Apparently 2 other Hebrews, though, heard this story and they reported it to the viceroy. And that's where he goes back home. The former pharaoh dies, Seti. Then Ramses becomes a new pharaoh. Looking, just kind of skipping through here. Afterward, the viceroy, after he heard this information, tells Ramses of Moses' true lineage, but Ramses isn't convinced.
Yeah.
So then he interrogates Moses and Miriam, who denies being his sister.
That scene was so frustrating.
So when Ramses threatens to cut her arm, Miriam's arm, I wonder how people like listening to this think like, where is this going?
Because we're still like in the first 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. So afterward, we see Ramses starting to cut off Miriam's arm. Moses intervenes and confirms that he is in fact a Hebrew, that is in fact his sister, right? And so the queen wanted Moses killed, but Ramses, still not willing to believe the story, instead exiles him, right? He sends him off his way. So before leaving Egypt, Moses meets with his adopted mother and Miriam, mm-hmm. who referred to him by his birth name. I forgot how they say Mosh.
Yeah, I can't say it, but yeah, I know.
Yeah, it was just the spelling was Moshe.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how they referred to him randomly throughout the film afterwards.
Yeah. It's kind of sporadic now that you say that, yeah.
So then after journeying to the desert, Moses comes to Midian, where he meets Zipporah and her father Jethro, mm-hmm. right? Then Moses becomes a shepherd, marries her, and has a son. So that's kind of a good chunk of the movie.
Yeah.
Where you meet them, you see how he meets his wife and how all that stuff happens. Mm-hmm. Years later, I think they said 9 years later.
Yeah, I know. I will kind of get that out of the way. The whole timeline from literally the date they give at the beginning is off. And I get it. The screenplay, you got to play with the timeline a little bit. Fine. So we're giving that a pass. But I'm just saying the whole timeline is off.
So then years later, Moses is injured in a rock slide. He goes, I think he just went out to shepherd, and then 2 of them went astray, if I remember right. And then it started raining, and there was a rock slide, and he's just like covered in it.
Yeah.
He wakes up and he encounters a burning bush and a boy which at first this wasn't clear to me. And I'm reading this now, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. He was a messenger of the God of Abraham.
Yeah, and I watched the whole movie, and then at the very end, he said something like, I don't want to talk to your messenger or something. And I'm like, wait, messenger? What are you talking about?
Yeah. So while recovering, Moses reveals his past to Zipporah and reveals what God has asked him to do, right? So it was while he was there with the burning bush, he finds out that, he has to go and free Israel, free the Hebrews. So this drives a wedge between the couple because obviously she doesn't want him to leave. She doesn't want him to abandon the family. But Moses leaves anyway.
We just needed some additional drama on that part, I guess.
Yeah. So then Moses goes back to Egypt. He reunites with the elders the Hebrew elders and Joshua, and meets his brother Aaron for the first time. Then he confronts Ramses for the first time since returning, demanding the Hebrews be released from slavery.
I'm holding myself in until we're done with the synopsis.
Okay. Then Ramses refuses to listen, insisting that freeing them is economically impossible. So after Moses threatens Ramses' life, Ramses orders Moses' death and the killing of random Hebrew families until Moses is found. This is when I think it gets a little, not this part, but I guess it further deviates here.
Yeah.
So the movie then goes that since Moses was a general, he uses his military training, his skills, and starts training the Hebrews and leads them to do an insurgency. So they start burning the crops. They start
for
burning
slaves,
supplies.
they have a lot of free time and freedom to be in military training.
Yeah, so they start doing that stuff. I think they're trying to dwindle their.
They were doing bombings.
Yeah. They were trying to attack all the army reserves and stuff like that.
I'm like, what is going on?
But then Moses sees that that's not doing anything, and it prompts Ramses to retaliate harsh to the Hebrews. That's when.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm trying to wait till the end of the synopsis, but I cannot. Okay, and this has nothing to actually do with the Bible. This is strictly about the movie. Moses returns back. And on the way, he finds out that they are burning slaves' body.
Mm-hmm.
So the slaves have been suffering pretty bad already. So any additional punishments, what's worse than being burned? It's like it took away any sort of punishment Pharaoh could give. He's already burning them. What's the big deal then? You can't have straw for the bricks. Who cares? At least I'm not burned alive. Anyway, sorry.
So then after Moses sees that doing these sort of insurgencies isn't doing anything, that's when God's messenger appears to Moses and explains that 10 plagues will affect Egypt. So that's when we do see the plagues, and they kind of just go through them individually. And I guess we could talk about that once we go back in depth.
Yeah.
But obviously Ramses doesn't back down, even oppressing his own people to maintain his position. Then Moses is horrified to learn of what God's going to do for the final plague. That's the death of the firstborn of all firstborn children, right? And he tells them to do the blood of the lamb over the doors. They do that. He goes and meets with Ramses one more time, kind of warning him hey, release these people or else you're going to suffer a lot. He doesn't listen. Afterward, then we see the scene of all the firstborns dying, including Ramses' infant son. There we see that he's devastated, surrenders, and allows the Hebrews to leave. So then we see them starting to pack up their stuff, and they start going. And so during the Exodus, the Hebrews follow Moses' original path, which I guess I should have mentioned. While he was stuck in the desert, he started making a map of where he was going. So it's his original path through the desert towards the Red Sea. And on the other side, since Ramses is still kind of grieving his son, he assembles his army and chases after the Hebrews. So after making their way through a dangerous mountain pass, Moses and the Hebrews arrive at the edge of the Red Sea. Uncertain about what to do, Moses stops for the night in despair and throws his sword into the sea. Again, they don't really explain this, but in the synopsis, but earlier in the film, Ramses and Moses each got swords with each other's names on them so they don't forget that they're brothers and stuff like that. So he throws that sword, and during the night, a comet crashes into the sea. I guess that's what that was. I was wondering what this little thing was. There was like a little star you saw. I thought that was supposed to be just like a sign,
Yep.
like cross this.
Yeah. I did not know it was supposed to be a comet either till you said that.
So when the Hebrews awake and they see that the sea has spread, opening a path to the opposite side. So then they begin the journey to the other side. Meanwhile, Ramses and his army continue into the pursuit, where many of them die because they were told, or I guess they didn't prepare correctly to this mountain path.
Mm-hmm.
Ramses and his men make it to the cliffs, crossing the sea. So he sends them to attack while the Hebrews are still crossing. Seeing this, Moses stays behind to fight them, while his people run for their lives. Then we see twisters and lightning form over the sea as Moses waits with his men to this is to taunt Ramses.
Yeah. They were ready to go on the other side of the water for some reason.
Yeah. So then you see, while this is happening, you start seeing the big wave come. So you can tell that the water is starting to come back.
Yep.
So then Moses tells the people that were with him to go back to freedom, right? Go to the other side where it's dry. And Moses stays there to fight Ramses or to confront him head on. So as they're about to, I guess, clash, you could say, that's when the water runs over them.
Yep.
So the Egyptians all but die, right? The whole army, they drown there. Moses survives by some miracle and rejoins the Hebrews.
Yeah.
Ramses also survives, which I thought he died, but I guess he survived.
No, in like most Moses movies, they have him survive. I guess it's just more dramatic.
Yeah, but I thought I guess in the movie, I thought I saw someone like get hit in the head underwater. I thought that was supposed to be him, but I guess it was Moses. I don't know who it was.
Mm-hmm.
So he survives. Where we go here. Moses leads the Hebrews back to Midian, where he reunites with his family. Then we go to see, they actually went a little further here, which I was surprised by. Mount Sinai, Moses writes the 10 Commandments. Then afterward, we see an older Moses riding with the Ark of the Covenant as they walk through the desert.
Yeah.
And that's where it ends.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not sure if I saw it right, where like in the end, as he's going up the mountain, did they show them like making the idol or something?
Yeah, there was something going on, but they didn't explain it.
No.
Yeah.
I thought that's what they were making reference to.
Yeah.
Because then they show like the little boy, the messenger, who's like shaking his head like angry at that they were doing that. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Maybe that's in the 4-hour cut.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, there is supposedly a 4-hour cut.
Yeah.
I guess we should have mentioned that too.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit about it before this podcast.
I can't.
So that's the whole synopsis of the film. So I guess we could just start back from the beginning if you want, Pastor.
So like I said, timeline, no matter what's going to be off because of screenwriting. Also, because they're making a movie, I get that they have to create relationship and some things, but as we've read and talked about here, like we don't know much about Moses' life in the palace. And might have the name wrong. It might be a different historian, but Josephus, I believe, is the one who said, and again, who knows what sources he got that from, but Josephus is the one, I believe, who said that Moses was like some sort of military commander while he was still in Pharaoh's home. So I kind of think that's where the 10 Commandments movie gets it. And well, most Moses movies have that included, and also the friendship, rivalry, brotherhood, whatever with Ramses. So I'm giving the movie a pass with certain elements just of storytelling and screenplays.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So where do you want to start from here?
Well, the first thing is that Moses doesn't know he's a Hebrew.
Yeah.
We talked about it. Like that is such a crucial element of the story. And I get that seems more dramatic for them.
Mm-hmm.
We should also add in the director is either agnostic or an atheist, one of the two. Okay. So obviously he's not approaching this with the same amount of respect that maybe others have in the past, even though, again, screenplaying, they mess with the story somewhat. He's not having that same reverence for this as others, and you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. Moses doesn't know he's a Hebrew. Literally, that makes so much of the rest of the story not make sense.
Yeah.
It's just like, wait a minute. So even when you were given the synopsis, why did he kill the Egyptians? Because he was upset because
He found out.
he was confused. He didn't know if it's true or whatever. He's upset.
Yeah.
And like, wait a minute, what? So he doesn't have, he doesn't know that the woman who weaned him and his sister, like these people that are teaching it, he doesn't know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's apparently normal for the son of Pharaoh's house to go live with the slaves. You know, like, yeah, just even starting there, it's like, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we see. Right, I'm trying to think where else here.
So I'm talking about this thing in two levels. I talk about the biblical side, and that's probably where we should focus. But I can't help myself. I have to talk about the writing side.
Mm-hmm.
There's two movies, and even though I enjoy them, they crack me up because they're so workmanlike. Man, do you remember what that's called? I think it's called Chekhov's gun. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
In the first scene of a movie, you introduce something, and then at the climax of the movie, you bring it back. So, you know, in the movie, at the very beginning, we see you have a gun. At the end of the movie, while I'm fighting the bad guy, you come back and save me with said gun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a screenwriting deal. And so, like, Back to the Future, the first, 10 minutes is literally like a checklist, clock tower, music, this, that, and everything's going to pay off later. There was some things in the screenwriting that were just killing me. The Moses leaving, between Moses leaving and coming back, what is that, 30 to 40 minutes at least? Well, and the way he's looking at the ground and whatever, I'm like, they're going to somehow use that again.
Yeah.
There's no reason that we are, and it seems like wasting, and most of it's in silence. By the way, a lot of this movie is very dark. You got to turn your brightness up to watch it. But, and I kept waiting. And then when they finally leave Egypt, he's like, well, I know the path. I'm like,
yeah, he has a map. And they actually show like he has a map. Like he literally drew a map.
I'm like, oh my goodness. And then the swords. There's a lot of little things like that. And I'm like, I don't know who the writer was, but the director's better than that. Like, it was too workmanlike. Like, that's coming back, that's coming back, that's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess because you said there was other stuff you wanted to mention, but I guess like we could start with the.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the main deal that he doesn't know that he's a Hebrew, and even still, while they start to tell him the deal with his sister, her arm getting cut off, he doesn't 100% know until he's leaving Egypt, right? It's like you just messed up the whole origin story, so to speak. You know, what is Batman without his parents getting killed?
Mm-hmm.
And we just messed up the whole origin story, and now, we're going to send him out. Okay, so that's where we get into the long meandering deal of him leaving and eventually coming back. And that's where we get to the first scene that actually makes me mad, which is the burning bush. Okay. He's not having a divine encounter. So what do we have? We have Moses tending sheep. That's what the Bible says. Here, fine, I'll give it to you. Okay, sheep have wandered off. He's after the sheep. However, we got storm and rock slide. He's knocked out, or does he get knocked out first or after? Or both?
Yeah.
It's kind of both, right? Okay, so after a head trauma, now he's having the encounter with God. Like, okay.
And it wasn't with God. It was with a messenger of God.
Yeah, but I didn't know that till the very
end. Yeah, we didn't know that till the end.
I mean, and I don't remember the movie. I remember... And obviously I was watching this before I was writing church, but I remember some horror movie where every time the villain appeared, it was a kid. I can't remember the name of the movie, but yeah, that's what it reminded me of. I'm like, why? Why are we using the kid? You know, and it's a Hollywood trope. You either use a little kid. Now, usually it's a girl. This time they used a boy, or you use a mystical black man, you know, or some older Eastern man. That's a trope. You want something mystical, that's where you go to. This, at least it was a boy, I guess. God is male, the Bible. And I was surprised he at least included that he's I am. But he comes, and so Moses has head trauma. He sees the blue burning bush. A boy appears, and he says, I need a general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Like, that's where we're going. And sure enough, he needs a general.
Mm-hmm.
That pays off a little bit later. But that whole deal with that whole conversation where there's no signs there's no real instruction even. It's just this weird mystical thing. And he gets, I am, and go back. Like, there is no respect. I mean, on a theological sense, that encounter at the burning bush is so important. And in I'm talking through Genesis to Revelation, there are certain things, certain encounters, certain things God says and does that are so vital to the overall tapestry of the scripture. And that is one. It's like a tent pole of the scripture. And man, they butcher it. And the introduction of the boy makes it even worse. I could keep talking about that, but I'm telling you, that whole scene was like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, by the way, the whole movie, and I kept waiting for it, Moses doesn't ever get the shepherd's staff. He carries the sword the whole time, all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he would have, because while he's in the rock slide, he injures his leg.
Yeah.
Like, all right, that's how he gets his little staff. He's got to walk with that now.
Yep.
No.
Sword.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see what else here.
Oh, and then let me add in, it just kind of ends, and then he wakes up with his wife, like, trying to tend to him. So you don't know if it was God or he's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then afterward, right, we saw him. He goes back.
Yeah.
And
then when he returns back to Egypt, number one, how did he sneak into Pharaoh's presence? And then he drew a sword on Pharaoh.
Yeah.
He held it to his neck. Okay. And then we get the conversation. So Moses returns, and he's a civil rights activist. Okay. Like, what? He wants them to be Egyptian citizens.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's coming for? Like, what? Oh, they need equal treatment. What? Like, what are we talking about? Like, I'm sorry, I know I got to hold my reactions in a little bit, but it's just like these little things, these little modern morality. And we do have our own modern morality that's not been found in any societies in the world up until these modern times. And yet we think it's the right way, and so we insert it. Like, you got to be a civil rights leader. Come on, man.
Yeah, so then we saw him do that. And then afterward, which again threw me for a loop, was when he started using those military skills. That's when he brings up being a general.
Yeah.
He starts training the Israelites, right? The Hebrews. He starts training them up, and then again, really, like, they really start doing like guerrilla warfare.
They were bombing.
Yeah, they were like blowing up things. They were throwing fire arrows at boats and burning them down. And I really did think, I was like, oh, I guess they're not going to do the plagues. This is how they're going to try to explain it. Like, they're just going to be doing some sort of attacks. And then, but I don't know. I guess that kind of threw me for a loop.
I'm telling you, man. Like, I was like, what is happening? And I knew that they were eventually going to get to the plagues, but I'm like, how do the plagues tie into this? You know?
And I'll be honest, it doesn't really. It just happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, apparently it was not God, it was his messenger, says something to the effect like, I'm tired of war.
Yeah.
Did you send him back for war? Well, I guess in this movie, we don't really know what God had sent him back for, because they don't make it clear, but God's tired of war, or the boy's tired of war. And so that's how we get to the plagues. Like, what? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so then we get to the plague, starting with the river. Right, that's how they started off.
Yep.
And they started it with, they just had like crocodiles, right?
That is how the Nile turns to blood. Crocodiles, which in my opinion look like crocodiles from Jurassic World. Okay, but they just kill everything, and that's where all the blood comes from.
Yeah, they kill everything, including themselves. Like, they start attacking each other, and then eventually all of it becomes red, and then the fish are dead because of that. I think if there's one little like thing that we could kind of get through this, is something we talked about before, is how we kind of see here how the Nile really was a big factor for
Yeah.
Egypt, right?
Yep.
Like it was like the lifeblood for the area.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the only thing I can kind of give
Yeah.
it credit for.
Yeah.
They kind of like show the importance of why this
Yeah.
this being blood is really affecting them.
Mhm. The rest of the plagues before, even the plague with the firstborn son, they're for the most part fine. And this one I am nitpicking on a little, but it's supposed to be hail and fire, and it's supposed to be hail unlike something they had seen, but they have like these small pieces of hail and lightning. Other than that, the rest of the plagues, well, the water, the hail were the two that were like, dude, what are we doing?
Yeah, the other ones I think were pretty straightforward. It's just
Yeah.
frogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
We saw the flies, we saw the locusts, we saw darkness even.
Yep.
I guess the only thing that would have been interesting to see, they don't really make reference to this until the last one, is how the Hebrews weren't ever really affected.
Yeah.
I think that would have obviously, well, I guess they took liberties in other areas, right?
Yeah.
Again, there's not a point to nitpick, but they didn't really showcase that much.
Yeah.
How they weren't really affected by any of this. I'm trying to think what else here.
When we do finally get to the death of the firstborn son, and so at this point in the movie, I've given up as far as this trying to be biblical at all. So the little that is said about the lamb dying and putting the blood on the doorpost, and he says something like, "We will be thankful for the lamb through eternity," and I probably should have wrote the line down. I'm like, hey, he got some sort of reference to Jesus in here, okay, that's better than I thought we were gonna get at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we do see that happen, right? The way they kind of do it is just like this big shadow that kind of goes over the city, and then they just start showing people, or they're showing like the kids and stuff just dying.
Yeah.
And I think it just ends with Pharaoh and his son dying.
Yeah.
And that scene was interesting
Mm-hmm.
because he's just like, again, this goes kind of back to like a movie thing. Like he's holding the kid, he's like shaking him around.
Yeah.
And they kind of tell that it looks like a prop because like, there's no way you'd be shaking a real baby like that. So I thought that was, like, on a film perspective, I thought that was interesting to see.
Yeah. Total side note, nothing to do with anything. That's his name, Ben Kingsley.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up watching, and I think they were TBS Bible movies. I think they were from TBS, and we had the VHS. They rented them at church because our church had a video rental service for a period of time. So I watched that Joseph movie a lot, and for anybody who's seen it, we had edited versions at the church. Okay, have you ever seen it?
No.
It's very interesting when Potiphar's wife makes her move on Joseph. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Okay, so we had edited versions. But anyway, Ben Kingsley was Potiphar. And to this day, every time I see him, he's Potiphar. And so in this movie, he's there, and I just can't get it out of my head. Every time, like, he pops back up, Potiphar. And like, he's totally in a different role. And I'm telling you, he was in a Marvel movie, Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Potiphar. That's all I see him as nothing else. He's just Potiphar all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And nothing to do with what we're talking about, but yeah.
Yeah, they did have like an actual cast of real,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say like real actors, but they actually had actors in this film.
They had Uncle Owen in the movie.
Yeah, they had like a big budget film here.
Yeah. I always forget his name, but I know him. The guy who played Ramses, he's from Warrior, and he's from the remake of the Star Wars. He's Uncle Owen.
Yeah.
Meatball. At that point, he's Owen with his girlfriend, Beru. Do you know they had girlfriends in Star Wars?
No.
Sorry, guys. This podcast in particular is like dipped into the nerdy side of me.
So then we see, right, they leave. And again, we mentioned again how he brings out his map.
Yeah.
What I found interesting was they kind of, I guess throughout the whole film, they try to make Moses out to be just like Sometimes he doesn't know what he's doing.
Hey, we skipped the part above all parts that I was upset about. Okay, I totally skipped that part. Before the plague of the firstborn son. Again, I thought it was God. It's God's messenger, but nonetheless, I'm telling you the way I saw it, that Moses has another conversation with God, and he begins to reprimand God for being cruel to the Egyptians.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you. All right, so I have the two sides to my rant that's going to happen right now. I have the side of the Bible, and then I have the side of modern storytelling. Okay, and let's do the Bible. Let's do the important one first. Moses knew who he was from a boy. He grew up and chose not to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He's seen the suffering of his people, moved so much by it that he would kill an Egyptian. You know, these people are pagan. These people are hurting each other. These people go to war. These people obviously have kept the Israelites in slavery and all these things. They've suffered and so on and so forth all these years. Is there a place by any logical human reasoning beyond modern morality that the man Moses would have any ambiguity about this stuff? This drives me nuts on the two levels. There is no way Moses was like, oh no, I'm worried about the Egyptians. What are you talking about? But again, we don't have regular Moses. We have Moses Luther King, who's a social activist here, trying to get the people citizenship. So, I mean, like, I like lost my mind at that part. Okay, I mean, I had a big reaction with the crocodiles and the blood, and that was just overcome with laughter. Okay, but then this one, point blank, made me furious. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Then, which takes us to the modern storytelling. Somebody decided somewhere along the way that having black hat villains and white hat heroes was boring. And so we've increasingly put shades of gray in all our movies. And I get that to a certain extent, because you don't want just caricatures. You want real people, or trying at least to make your characters real people. I get that. However, I remember, and I don't know the year, it wasn't that long ago, my son went through a phase. He really liked Peter Pan. Disney happened to come out with a new Peter Pan. At the end of the movie, through the course of the movie, Hook really isn't that bad, and Hook is actually kind of a victim of Peter being a jerk. So we end the movie with no real hero or villain. And at the end of the movie, my son's like, eh. And that's what you get when you don't have a hero and a villain, when you don't have people decided, when you get this ambiguity, you get eh. And so many movies and stories and books and things. This is how we tell stories, because we don't want to take definitive stances on anything. There is one exception. If we talk about Nazis, we are allowed to take Nazis and portray them as actually bad and evil. Outside of them, including in this movie, any other movie or whatever comes out, if it doesn't involve Nazis, okay, it's always going to be shades of gray. Never black, never white. It drives me nuts. End of my rant for now.
Yeah. So that's why we kind of see Moses throughout this whole film almost like he doesn't know what he's doing. He's kind of just making it up as he goes.
Yeah.
So we see that the most when they actually leave Egypt and they're in the mountains that he had made a map of, and he gets lost. So he's kind of just making his way like, oh, well, let's just go this way.
Yeah.
And they just end up at the Red Sea.
Yeah.
Not where he had wanted to, but he still ended up at the sea.
Mm-hmm.
So then we're there, and
we get a King Arthur-ish kind of moment with the sword.
Yeah, where he's since it's not the area that he remembered for the Red Sea where he had I guess we should have mentioned he passed there earlier.
Yeah.
But like through an area that was more narrow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how he kind of knew where he was going. But this area was just regular water, so he couldn't cross.
I was emptying my water bottle just so I can give the example to anybody who's not going to watch the movie. And if you guys can't tell, I recommend you don't watch this movie because it's ridiculous. But he gets upset. He takes his sword spins, whatever, lands in the water, and then very much King Arthur style gets planted in the bottom and it's sticking up.
Yeah.
Well, he goes to sleep. It's not instantaneous. He goes to sleep, and by the time he wakes up, the water's going lower, and you can start seeing the handle of his sword. And I'm like, oh my goodness! And then because I kept waiting for like the big supernatural visual whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely thought he was gonna get up, go grab the handle of his sword, and when he did, yeah, never happened.
No, they just cross like the water. They still have to cross some water.
Yeah,
but it's just like shallow water.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no dry land like the Bible talks about.
I think there was like dry towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, it had puddles and things, you know.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Again, you don't see it just.
It's amazing.
And then I guess there was also a part here, real briefly, when they're in this like the beach area where some of the Hebrews kind of are angry at Moses.
Oh yeah,
like you're treating us like they did over there in Egypt.
You like that sidetrack?
And then he gives a speech to rouse them up and have them believe again.
Yep.
And then I think that's when they cross.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that came from either. I was like, okay.
I don't know. It was like they were just trying to cram stuff in. Again, I feel like this was a very workman-like script. Like that they had some things they felt like they had to include from the Bible. Again, because they want the social message in there too, right? They do. But they also, in their own screenwriting, had their own little things they wanted to work in. So I think that was just a check-off moment. Moses has conflict with the people later, so check. That's really what I think that was about.
Yeah. And then again, right, they cross, and then we see during that time they kind of go back and forth, showing the Egyptians getting closer and closer. Then they have that final encounter, like in the middle of the sea, where Moses and Ramses are about to clash and fight, but then the water stop them.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of how then he ends up being on the other side. He meets back with his family, convinces them to go with him. I think we don't actually. That makes it seem like they do go with him.
Yeah, there's some things in this movie that are just ambiguous. Like they don't really define it.
Yeah. Then after that, I thought it was just gonna end there or something, or like with the scene of them going off.
Yeah, that was the natural end point.
But then they added more.
They just wanted to add in some more to make me mad. I really yeah.
Yeah, that's why after that, that's when they show Moses going up and writing the 10 Commandments and stuff.
And that right there. I mean, there's those last few things in the movie. Moses was not the writer. I mean, this physical scribe of the 10 Commandments. It was written by God in the mountain in stone, representing that the word is forever settled in heaven. It was written on stone, showing, again, that would tie into the New Testament. Heaven and earth pass away is supposed to represent the permanence, the everlasting aspect of the word of God. And yet it was Moses chiseling. And then we have just the dumb conversation, like essentially God's ask. Again, I still don't know this is not God. That doesn't come up till maybe actually in this scene, maybe towards the end. But do you agree with this? If you agree with it, then write it. Since when does God need us to agree for his word to be the word? Like, what are we talking about? And again, we get, these are theological things. If we're talking a biblical movie, I understand you might be an atheist, you might be agnostic, but there's certain things, if you're making a biblical movie, you got to respect. And this is one, again, out the window. Oh, and then we skipped that they might have already been building the golden calf at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe. We don't know. Again, ambiguous. Seems like it.
It looks like it because there's a scene where he's going up the mountain before he's going to go write it.
Yeah.
And they're doing something in the middle. And like the person that we thought was like a representation of God or God's messenger is like shaking his head angrily.
Yep.
And then they just keep going up.
Yeah. And then
they add more after that.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, maybe we'll just end it here.
Yeah.
But then they show Moses a lot older now. and he's just riding.
He's riding in a wagon.
Yeah, and literally just like a regular, imagine like a Western wagon, right?
Yeah.
Like, just a rundown. He's just in there.
And he has got a box that is apparently the Ark of the Covenant. Does not look impressive in any way. It's just like a regular box. It's not even that big.
It looks like a crate.
It's smaller than this table.
Yeah.
You know? And again, he's the God enthroned between the cherubim, the mercy seat on the top. But, the law, they had to carry it on their shoulders. It always went in front. There was so many things. And I know at this point, I should let it go, right? At this point, I should totally let it go. But they should have ended the movie after the Red Sea. These last scenes are just like prodding me, like, get upset. And I did. I went for it. I did get upset.
And then that's where the movie ends.
Yeah. Well, with the child God messenger walking away from Moses, which I didn't know what that really meant, or maybe it didn't mean anything.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought, and it just says through the desert. I thought it was supposed to be like referencing like, oh, they made it. But I guess, I don't know if they did.
Yeah, just stop.
So that's where how this movie ended. And I guess it brings to just a question, right? Of, I understand when they make biblical movies, but I'm thinking like as a film perspective, like as a film, this movie isn't that great.
No.
Right? The story?
I will say some of those acting and the cinematography is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually think the little boy that portrays the messenger, he actually did a good job at that. There's some good acting chops. But I was thinking like, if this movie doesn't appeal to the Christian audience, right?
Yeah.
But then it's not good for a regular movie, then who's this for?
Yeah.
Or if you're not going to make, like, this movie isn't good one way or the other, then, like, this, I'm like,
yeah. I never, and I won't watch it, the Moses movie. I'm sorry, not Moses, the Noah movie. But, and the reason I won't watch that is because I don't remember if I know that because of the commercials or if I looked into it at the time. I know they took stuff from the Book of Enoch and put it in there. And the Book of Enoch is not canon for a reason. It's really, there's several reasons. First of all, the actual manuscript. Number two, it clashes with scripture. There's several reasons. And so I was just like, no, I don't need to be putting false doctrine in my head, because it's not just this is man's interpretation or liberty with screenwriting. They went to a source that I don't believe in and included it, so I wouldn't watch it. In retrospect, especially since you're telling me that what I thought was supposed to be God was a messenger, I'm like, I wonder how much they did go to other resources and mixed it into the movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, man, like when Moses, number one, Moses dares to reprimand the God of the universe. But again, it was his messenger, but still, I thought it was reprimanding the great I am. And he's more worried about the Egyptians than he is about the freedom of Israel. Like, where, how, why? I just couldn't deal with it.
So yeah, that was that movie, right? Exodus, Gods and Kings. Again, it's not really a film you have to watch.
No.
At the end of the day, I completely forgot this even existed.
If you like when I get angry, we could review more movies.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how people respond to this one.
Yeah, and I'm holding back.
Yeah.
Angry Andrew is he's always there, simmering under the surface. I just need excuses to let him out.
But yeah, that was the movie. Exodus, Gods and Kings. It'd be interesting to see how many films there are about Moses.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, there's the Charlton Heston one that they used to play every Easter on TV. There is the 90s one that was made like part of that TBS series with Joseph and all the other ones. The Prince of Egypt. And this one, maybe there's more, but those are the ones I know of.
I guess we'll kind of look it up afterwards, see how many there are. But I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
To see how
just about anything will be better than this.
Yeah.
As far as being biblical, but it's not even, for me, it's not even just the biblical part. It's the lack of the Bible, but also, like I said, this workman type script where we're just going to set it up again and again for payoffs and payoffs. And some people would say that's good screenwriting, but I'm like, what's funny, I think I said it. There's one movie like that, Back to the Future. There's another one that's kind of like that, and coincidentally has Christian Bale in it. Batman Begins. That first section of the thing, you just got to go through it. All right, his parents die, getting trained as a ninja. That's where he gets the gloves. That's where he gets the smoke bombs. That's where he learns fear. Or, It's like ding, 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 check. And then let's start the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was, again, Exodus, Gods, and Kings. And hopefully you all enjoyed this kind of sidetrack.
Yeah.
Right. Next week we'll go back to where do we left off with
we got to the wilderness at least last week.
Yeah, where they have left Egypt. So we'll kind of pick it up from there.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. We actually have a lot to go with Moses. And again, if there's anyone else in the Bible, any other biblical figures that you all would like to hear, let us know. Right. I think in Facebook you can make comments and stuff. So
we should review the Joseph movie later. But we need the edited copies we used
to. Yeah, you gotta find those ones. I didn't even know that movie existed either.
Listen, I have it on DVD. You have no idea, man. Like that, there was a time, specifically, I think it was the year we bought the church, where I just was alone a lot. So I would turn on a movie and play a video game or whatever, but we had to watch whatever we had.
Yeah.
So my limited thing of VHS is just whatever, and I'd just grab Joseph all the time, and it was a longer movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But inevitably, you see Potiphar's wife come in, screen goes, shh, and then comes back, and Joseph's in trouble, and you're like, what happened? Yeah. Real. Yeah. Anyway, we need Brother Salazar to come back. Edit those movies for us.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I'll shut up. We're done. What a great ending to the podcast. I will shut up. We're done.
Thank you all again for watching, listening. And again, just remember to like, share, subscribe. And again, next time we will get back to the story of Moses in the Bible.
Story.
Yeah, the actual story. And again, hopefully you enjoyed this, right? I think with what's clear, again, is that these are just interpretations, right? Don't take movies or TV shows as like the end all be all of, this is how the story went. It's always important to remember that, because sometimes it can be very easy to forget and just think, okay. But yeah, that was kind of what we're looking at for this movie.
Interesting.
Yes. So again, thank you all for watching, and until the next one, have a great day.